Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. Plans to reopen Doncaster Sheffield Airport could be approved this week, but it will cost taxpayers tens of millions of pounds.
Is that a good use of public money to get an airport reopened?
It is, absolutely. Look, it's not just about the airport, it's about the whole of that sector. If we're going to grow the economy of South Yorkshire, if we're going to create jobs and opportunity.
We asked South Yorkshire's Mayor and the Prime Minister whether it's money well spent. Also tonight, a family's tears at the inquest into the death of a Barnsley mum who choked whilst under hospital supervision. We see how these T-shirts are helping to break the cycle of homelessness in South Yorkshire.
Yay!
And has this man walked his way into the record books? Find out why he's celebrating on a building site.
Well, how lovely to see the sunshine today. The River Wharf was looking majestic up there in Upper Wharfdale, but there is more rain on the way. Join me for the week ahead forecast.
Hello, thank you for your company on this Monday evening. First tonight, plans to use tens of millions of pounds of public money to try to reopen Doncaster Sheffield Airport are expected to get the go-ahead this week. The airport closed in November 2022 with owners Peel Group saying that it was costing too much to run. Now, tomorrow, local leaders in South Yorkshire will decide whether to release up to £138 million to get the planes flying again at DSA. In a moment, we'll get the views of the Prime Minister and South Yorkshire Mayor. But first, here's Spencer Stokes with a look at what's been proposed.
15 months after passengers and flight crews walked away from Doncaster Sheffield Airport, reopening plans are on the brink of taking a big step forward.
Normally on a Friday night, we'd have a flight crew in here.
Up until November 2022, the Crown Hotel at Bawtry let 30% of its rooms to airline staff. That business disappeared overnight. The champagne isn't on ice just yet, but a revived airport feels within reach.
So many groups of people have come together, all with the same purpose in mind, all to make sure Peel signs that lease. We sign it over, we took over the airport and get it open again. To see the green shoots of recovery around the corner is going to be a massive benefit, not just for us, but for the whole of Doncaster and for the whole of the South Yorkshire region.
Under the reopening plan, South Yorkshire's Mayor will provide £138 million of devolution funds to Doncaster Council. The council would then use that money to lease the airport site from Peel Group and appoint a specialist airport operator. The airport would be part of a sustainable airport hub with other aviation companies, and it's thought 5,000 direct jobs could be created.
Fundamentally, it is unlikely to be a commercially viable airport.
Peel Group closed Doncaster Sheffield in November 2022, saying that over 17 years it never made a profit. One aviation industry advisor says the sector has become even more challenging.
The market now is tending to focus slightly more on bigger airports where airlines can make more money. And so to get airlines to operate to a more marginal airport like Doncaster, you end up having to pay them sums of money or reduce your charges substantially to get them to be able to operate. And in those circumstances, it's unlikely that a smaller airport like Doncaster would be able to cover its operating costs.
Airports bring connections, jobs and a certain status. But could the money be better spent?
It's a distraction. Potentially it's an easy popular win for some people, but the reality is it won't benefit most people's lives most regularly. What will benefit everyone's lives every day is investing in buses, local trains, local transport networks. It's that day-to-day transport we really need to think about and prioritise.
Peel Group say they are in discussions with Doncaster Council. Money from South Yorkshire's Mayor makes reopening a real possibility. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North, Doncaster.
So as we heard there, not everyone is convinced it should reopen. Spencer has spoken to South Yorkshire's Mayor Oliver Coppard and started by asking why South Yorkshire needs an airport.
What South Yorkshire needs is economic growth. We need a bigger and better economy across the whole of South Yorkshire. The investment that I hope we're going to take a big step towards making is that investment in the future of South Yorkshire's advanced manufacturing sector, sustainable aviation, with an airport at its heart. So that £138 million package is there to support the growth of a whole economic sector, getting Doncaster Sheffield Airport flying again, but also creating jobs and growth and opportunity right across the whole of South Yorkshire.
Is that a good use of public money to get
Yes.
an airport reopened?
It is, absolutely. Look, it's not just about the airport, it's about the whole of that sector. If we're going to grow the economy of South Yorkshire, if we're going to create jobs and opportunity, then we have to invest in those things that we are brilliant at, and there are a number of them, but sustainable aviation, advanced manufacturing are absolutely at the forefront of our strengths. They're what we can sell to the world, they're how we can build a bigger and better economy.
What does sustainable aviation mean? Because some would argue you can never use those two words together. This is just greenwash. Aviation isn't sustainable.
Well, look, Boeing, who are here in South Yorkshire because of our sustainable aviation technology, would disagree. Hybrid Air Vehicles, another company that we're bringing into South Yorkshire, would disagree with you about the fact that aviation can't be sustainable. Absolutely, there are challenges. I am determined to hit our net zero goals. We're always going to need planes in the sky. This is about flying in a different and better way, perhaps flying less, absolutely, perhaps flying in different ways, but flying from regional airports like Doncaster Sheffield Airport and giving us the opportunity here in South Yorkshire to access the opportunity, the jobs, the growth that come with that sector.
Peel's say that the airport never made a profit in the 17 years they operated it. Why would it make a profit once it's reopened?
My argument has always been that the operators that had it, Peel, didn't know how to make that a thriving airport. And I think you see there are other regional airports. You look up the road at Leeds Bradford, there are other airports that have been made into successful regional airports. So we've got to get it up and running again. We've got to give it the support that it needs, but we've also got to get the right owner and operator in to get planes off the ground and bring in the right airlines in order to make sure that we're creating that long-term future for the airport.
What do you think the timescale is for reopening? People will want to know when
Absolutely.
they can fly again from
I
Doncaster.
want to be able to tell people when the first flight will go out of Doncaster Sheffield Airport. I can't tell you right now when that will be. All I will say is we will keep on working every single day to get that airport opened, but we still have to do those deals with Peel and the commercial operator, and then we have to put in place that reinstatement of the airport in order to get planes flying again. We'll do that as quickly as we can, as well as we can, but we aren't there yet, and people need to hopefully kind of stick with us on that journey and then start booking their holidays out of DSA.
Well, I've been talking to Transport with the Prime Minister, who was in Harrogate today. We covered road, rail, and if Rishi Sunak could tell us when he last caught a bus. But I started by asking if he thought the plans to reopen the airport made sense.
I said I'm not familiar with the exact details of the scheme. I mean, in general, what we're trying to do is to devolve power, responsibilities and funding to local areas across the country. We've done that particularly well across the north because I believe that if local people are more in control of their destinies, that's a good thing. So whether that's across Yorkshire or the northeast, we've seen elected mayors, combined authorities take more power and responsibility. That's the direction of travel, and I think that's the right thing to do.
The government seems to have supported the reopening, but where's the extra funding?
Well, we're investing record amounts in transport in general, and partly we're able to do that because of the decision that the government took on HS2 to reallocate every penny of that money. We're here at a bus depot which is benefiting from the £2 bus fare that we were able to put in place as a result of that reprioritisation.
Let's talk about the buses. When was the last time you were on a bus in Yorkshire, Prime Minister?
Well, I used to actually, in one of my, as a constituency MP, we had lots of, as all rural areas do, have challenges with bus fares and rural bus provision, which is why we've actually invested more in it. And again, that was one of the things that we've been able to do as a result of HS2.
Well, you'll know as well that the frequency of the buses has almost halved in North Yorkshire since 2010. Is that a legacy of Conservatives in power for the last 13 years?
No, actually we're investing more, and if you look at bus provision as a result of what this government is doing, we're investing more in buses.
But the frequency of the buses has gone down.
Well, I said that local councils obviously are responsible for provision in their areas as well. They are topped up by government funding. The Bus Service Operators Grant is a considerable investment in local bus services, and again the decision that we've made on HS2 means that we can cap bus fares at £2.
Let's talk more about HS2. The Mayor for Birmingham and Manchester have come up with an alternative plan for the HS2 route. What's the alternative for Yorkshire?
We have safeguarded the billions of pounds to connect Manchester and Liverpool. The remaining money is being used. So the TransPennine is being electrified across all the way over to Hull, which will improve connectivity across cities in the north. That's incredibly positive.
That has been promised for the last 10 years. When do we actually see a project cross the line?
Well, now, because of the decision on HS2, there will be the funding available. The Department for Transport is already talking to local authorities about how that funding can be used, and people are already seeing the benefits this year with extra funding for road maintenance across the north. If you talk to anybody, what they care about most is actually the quality of the roads. As a result of the decision on HS2, right now more money will be flowing into road maintenance.
That was the Prime Minister talking to me earlier in Harrogate. You are watching Monday's Look North. It's still to come on tonight's programme. A weekend of wins for our sides in the football, including a remarkable victory for Bradford at promotion-chasing Wrexham. Next this evening, an inquest has heard how a mum from Wakefield died after choking on food while under intensive observations at a psychiatric hospital. 36-year-old Kirsty Thane began to suffer from mental health issues after a life-changing event around 2008. She'd been categorised as high risk after previously attempting to take her own life, often by choking on items of food. Ollie Constable reports from Sheffield.
Kirsty Thane spent the last months of her life telling doctors and nurses how much she wanted to kill herself. In 2008, she was subjected to a serious sexual assault when she was attacked on a night out. This led to her normal life as a mum and partner to fall apart. Sat on a hospital psychiatric ward, she told nurses how she didn't want to get better and tried more than 50 times to take her own life. She was deemed to be high risk, and in the days before she died had to have nursing staff sat next to her during mealtimes in case she tried to choke herself on food. And that is how she died. Today, the court behind me heard from Detective Sergeant James Bailey. He told the jury how, on the 9th of July 2020, Kirsty tried on 3 occasions to choke herself on different pieces of food at Kendry Hospital in Barnsley. At 5 o'clock that day, she ate part of a chip butty and then choked on the rest. Despite immediate first aid, Kirsty died in her bedroom. The inquest is looking at how Kirsty died while living in a psychiatric hospital and the incidents that led up to her death. The inquest is due to last 3 days. Ollie Constable, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Let's take a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom tonight. Around 30 firefighters have been tackling a blaze in Leeds. Plumes of smoke were seen across the city after a fire broke out at a single-storey building in Armley just after 1 this afternoon. There were no injuries, but the fire caused severe damage to the building. The cause of the fire is still unknown. A busy road tunnel in Leeds has been closed to all vehicles until the autumn for vital maintenance to be carried out. The New York road tunnel allows vehicles to travel under part of the city's inner ring road. Leeds City Council apologised for disruption caused and encouraged drivers to plan ahead and follow signed diversions. People in Barnsley have been offered a health check while sitting in the barber's chair. How's the Ticker is a public health campaign launched by Barnsley Council after finding middle-aged men were missing out on having their blood pressure checked. So they decided to go out and see men while they were having their hair cut. And since then, several have been sent straight to A&E after finding their blood pressure was dangerously high.
We've really had some really good success stories. Lots of people telling us thank you for picking it up. I went straight to my doctor, or I went straight to the hospital, and they told me I was at severe risk of heart attacks and strokes. So yeah, we're really saving lives, hopefully.
And it's a great idea, that, isn't it, testing in barbers. An inquest has heard how a man thought to have drowned in a river after drinking had actually been strangled and murdered before his body was dumped in the water. The truth about 43-year-old David Clark only emerged 12 years later when the killer was caught on tape admitting what he'd done. Well, today an inquest concluded he was unlawfully killed. Peter Harris has more.
In his own words, this is killer David Roosterby bragging about his crime. That taped confession came 12 years after the victim's body was found floating face down in the River Foss in York. An inquest at the time concluded the victim, David Clark, had drowned while under the influence of drink, before the killer's dramatic admission of the truth was taped by a friend. A new police investigation found Mr. Clark had in fact been strangled at the flats where he lived in 2007, leading to Roosterby, who'd plied him with drink and drugs, finally being found guilty of murder at Leeds Crown Court in 2020. Roosterby and his partner Sharon Holden, who was jailed for assisting an offender, had driven the body to the river and dumped it. Now today a second inquest was held into David Clark's death. The coroner quashed the verdict from the original hearing in 2008. That was an open verdict, and substituted it today for a verdict of unlawful killing following Roosterby's murder conviction. The inquest conclusion about what happened in the river, perhaps offering some closure to David Clark's family 17 years after his brutal death. Peter Harris, BBC Look North.
Now, a charity in Sheffield, which has spent 30 years helping the vulnerable and homeless, is now taking its work a step further. The Archer project provides support and shelter for people living rough. It's now selling hand-printed garments made by those very same people that it's helping. It gets them into paid work, and it also provides more funds for the charity. Tom Ingle has been finding out more.
John and Anna have both experienced being homeless. But thanks to the humble printing press, they can look to the future with optimism.
I was suffering with homelessness and drug addiction. As I started to get my life back together, I was looking to get into some voluntary work to give myself a bit more structure. So I approached the Archer project, and they put me on to doing heat pressing T-shirts. So I did that as a volunteer role for a while, and eventually they found me some paid work.
This is the Printed by Us social enterprise scheme. It's an extension of Sheffield's well-known homelessness charity, the Archer Project. T-shirts and tops are printed upstairs and then sold downstairs in the shop.
Our motto is from sleeping bag to fulfilling life, so that's, on a nutshell what we do. We use this shop to provide supported employment opportunities for over 20 people with a homeless background or individuals who have overcome similar adversities.
You could call it a virtuous circle. The more people who buy something from the Orchard Square shop in the city centre, the more the charity makes, and so the more it can help. The shopping centre plays its part too.
We have recently announced Archer Project as our Charity of the Year for the third year running. We see a lot of homelessness and we see the work that they do. I personally went down and volunteered at the Archer Project serving breakfast, and just to see the impact that it has on those people's lives, and then to see it then do full circle, it gets them into work, it provides them opportunities, and it's just really fantastic cause to be supporting. It's really important to us.
I've been here about 4 years and learned to do screen printing more recently. I think it's just nice to make things and to make stuff that people want to buy and that helps support the project. And that's also helping me to think that at some point I could do this as well for myself, maybe, and actually have a business making clothes.
Trends change, but the shop is also offering screen printing workshops to ensure this is no fast fashion flash in the pan. Many future lives could yet be changed by it. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
A Yorkshire derby in the Championship between Leeds and Rotherham. The opening goal, a controversial cross to Bamford, which the Millers claimed was a handball. In the second half, Somerville scored twice against Rotherham, securing a 3-0 win for Leeds and leaving Rotherham at the bottom of the table. The Terriers led 2-0 at half-time against Southampton, with goals from Thomas and Kazumu. But a third goal from Matos in the second half wasn't enough to win the match, as the Saints came storming back with a 5-3 victory. In League One, it was a dramatic late victory for Barnsley, who played at home against Leyton Orient. The Tykes equalised in the 88th minute with this header from Phillips, making it 1-1. Then Phillips snatched a second goal in added time, with only 10 men on the pitch. Definitely cause for celebration.
Barnsley have snatched it, surely.
In League Two, Doncaster beat Tranmere Rovers 2-1 with goals from Ironside and Adelakan. Harrogate Town beat Colchester 1-0 with Muldoon scoring the only goal there. And after missing a penalty, Cook snatched Bradford a shock win in the 89th minute with his follow-up goal against Wrexham.
Now, did you have a late one last night? You might have stayed up to watch Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl in America. There has been a lot of hype around it recently as Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, one of their biggest football stars. Well, amongst the thousands of fans were two lads from Leeds who got tickets just by chance as a birthday treat, and they found themselves watching one of the most memorable matches in American history.
I was 40 this week, Super Bowl was always on the cards, and yeah, we just made it happen. So yeah, we flew out Wednesday, and yeah, here we are.
Is that genuinely your team or just to ruin his birthday?
No, we're Patriots fans, so that's the funniest thing. We just chose teams on the day, got the jerseys, and then came to the game.
Well, they're not going to forget that holiday, are they? The Sheffield Steelers are closing in on the league title after a 3-1 victory over Manchester Storm on Saturday. The Steelers started well within a 2-0 lead in the first period, with goals from Patrick Watling and Kevin Tansley. Then Champagny eventually broke through and scored a third from close range. Now, finally this evening, Sheffielders know that there are many reasons to love their city, but we're about to meet one man who has 6,388 reasons to love it. That is the number of streets within the city boundaries of Sheffield, and Jim Fulton, a retired electrical contractor, is on a mission to walk them all. Well, I guess someone's got to, haven't they? Can he succeed? Kathy Killick has the answer.
Come rain or shine, Jim Fulton loves to walk. So much so, he's aiming to walk every street of his home city, Sheffield.
I've always enjoyed walking. I always enjoyed walking as a child, and I still do. There's so much to see, and you can't do it on a bike, you can't do it in a car. It's not the same. Come out and walk, it's really good.
He plots his progress on City Strides, an app that's been logging his walks for the last 5 years. He has just one more to do, Love Street. Only trouble is, it's on a locked building site. But after a begging letter to the developers, they're allowing him in to walk his final precious street.
Fantastic. This has taken 5 years to get to this point.
How many miles is it?
1,200.
It's not the prettiest of streets in this state, but Jim has lots of reasons to love it. It's his 6,388th Sheffield street and marks the end of his epic challenge.
Yay! Fantastic. It's been a long time in happening. So I've been excluded from here for 2 years or so. This was the last one. I just wanted to find out about the city I live in.
Congratulations, well done, but what next?
That's floored me. I don't know.
What have you learned about your city?
I thought I knew everything about Sheffield. Having lived here for 70 years, I realised that actually I haven't scratched the surface.
Jim's walks have taken him from rural outskirts to industrial heartlands, and he's learnt about the origins of some bizarre street names along the way. And as a celebratory treat, the developers have a surprise for him. A trip 20 floors up for a bird's eye view of all the streets he's walked.
God, you can see so much from here. It's a brilliant sight, isn't it? This is fantastic. Look at that over there.
I think that it's a little bit crazy. It's a lot of miles. I think it's over 1,200 miles that he's walked. But for somebody to come and see a city like Sheffield and to experience all the variety and diversity that's here, I think it's a great thing to do.
It's a nice moment to savour the glory. But something tells me Jim has more walks in him. The only question is where to. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Now, that is a brilliant challenge to achieve. 1,200 miles. Fantastic, that.
I tell you what, he's had some rubbish weather, hasn't he? But, you know, it brought back memories when we pushed that sofa from the middle of Sheffield city centre.
Oh, I remember.
Broom Hill, Cross Pool, past the Three Merry Lads and over the top of Stanage Edge into Bakewell.
Stanage Edge was gruelling, wasn't it?
Absolutely, just brought back.
I remember it was snowing, actually.
It was snowing, as forecast, of course. What a fantastic feat. But anyway...
Yeah, well done, Jim.
I hope you've enjoyed the sunshine today, because that was at Filey Bay looking... You know, there's a few people on the beach there, not sunbathing, of course, but there is a little bit of strength coming into the sun now. We're getting into nearly the second half of February, and that's Gunnerside from memory. That's the road from Swaledale to Wensleydale, so it is quite high up, but still some snow there from last week in the corners of the field. That won't last much longer because we've got some very mild air on the way back by the middle of this week. If you've got any pictures, you want to get them on the telly, the addresses are on your screen, and take a look on the Weather Watcher website. There's some lovely pictures there from the weekend. So for the rest of the week, unfortunately, it's back to square one. A lot of cloud, Very mild temperatures for the time of the year, and there's more rain to come on most of the days to come. So a number of weather fronts, but just look at these sort of yellows coming in. That tells us that the air is coming from a very mild source, in fact the subtropics, and temperatures Wednesday and Thursday could be as high as 13 or 14 degrees. So on average, we've only got 2 or 3 weeks left of meteorological winter. It is again turning out to be a very mild winter indeed. Now there's a radar picture at the moment. We've got a number of showers coming into the Irish Sea. They're going to come across Yorkshire later this evening and for a time overnight. So 1 or 2 showers at first, some quite lively showers, especially for the Pennines, but they'll rattle through and should clear all parts during the early hours of this morning, and we'll see minimum temperatures down to around 2 Celsius, so just a chance of 1 or 2 icy patches, mainly in countryside areas. So tomorrow's high water time is Filey at 6:46, Bridlington at 6:54 in the morning. So mostly fine. There could be 1 or 2 showers around, but it's a mostly fine start. Quite a bit of cloud. That cloud will steadily build, rain onto the Pennines mid to late morning, and then I'm afraid once again it turns wet as we head through the afternoon. Some persistent rain, some mist, low cloud and fog over the hills. So not too pleasant temperatures, around 8 Celsius. That's 46 Fahrenheit with a moderate southwest wind to come. On to Wednesday then, there'll be some rain around, especially at first. It may well brighten up through the afternoon, especially to the east of the Pennines. More rain pushing in from the southwest Thursday into Friday. Saturday not looking too bad, but look, temperatures still in double figures, and it will be frost-free. That's the forecast, Amy.
Maybe you could walk every street in Keighley. That'd keep you busy, wouldn't it?
Well, it could, yeah. It'd probably take me about 3 days, but you could come with me if you want.
Short challenge. That's it from us. Hannah is here with the late news. Bye-bye for now.